All right, it says I'm live. If you guys can hear me, please let me know, and we will get chatting. Should probably turn my volume off. Pop the chat out. Let me know if my camera's good, because when I was looking at the preview, it looked like it was a little kind of blurry. So. Let's see here. We good? All good? Awesome. Please let me know if the camera acts up at any point. It usually doesn't do that. I did get an Ethernet cable, so hopefully the internet's like more streamlined. I don't know how it works, but apparently the connection should be better. But let's see who's in the chat so far. I saw when I opened the live stream, we had like 15 people waiting and like 15 likes, so that's pretty nice. Conscious is going for a walk before the show. Awesome. Hope your walk was nice. What's up, Dave? Let's get some money. I totally agree. What is up, Gilbert? He also wants to get some money. I definitely would agree with Gilbert today. What's up, Duke? Wyatt? Hey, Chris. Race day, baby. Sure is. We're really looking forward to today's race. I guess the weather in Daytona is not too bad, so that's a surprise. Steven says, hello, Pennell. Big money today. Yeah, can't wait, Steven. Hopefully it's a pretty darn good day. Hopefully my guys don't wreck early on, like last week. What's up, David? Steven says, morning, Chris. Congrats on the branching out, man. I'm so happy for you and what you're accomplishing. Hard work pays off, brother. Thanks for all the great info. Thank you very much, Steven. I really do appreciate that. You've been around here for quite some time. Mr. Miyagi says, hey, Chris, let's get this bread. Yep, totally agree. Let's see. Gonna let everyone roll in for a few minutes here. I'll just do the hellos and everything. Let's see. What's up, Jeff? Okay, so first question. Okay, apparently the camera is good. Okay, so the Travis Miller says, I'm going Blaney, Kurt, Bowman, Byron, Suarez, and Ty Dillon. What y'all think? I think that's a pretty strong lineup. I don't have a lot of lineups that have two scrubs. Not saying Ty Dillon and Daniel Suarez are the worst drivers in the world, but I think a majority of mine pretty much have one of those guys, but I definitely did branch into two scrub lineups, so I think that's totally fine, like all those drivers. And those are my two favorite cheap drivers as well. Peter says, happy race day, let's get that money. I agree, Peter. I agree. Thanks for stopping in. Nate says, congratulations on teaming up with Osmo and Sal. Who you liking on Super Draft? I do not play over on Super Draft, Nate, so I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. I know some people in the chat here do play on Super Draft, so if they want to give you any advice, I would welcome that. But thank you on the congratulations. Really do appreciate that. Michael says, all good. Awesome, Michael. Glad to hear. Jeff says, it's going to be a good day. I'm hoping it's a good day. I like my lineups today, which usually that's not a good sign. Whenever you like your lineups, that's usually when things go poorly. So we'll see. But there's a lot of good plays on this slate, man. There's a lot of good plays. Truex, Elliott, Blaney, Dinger. I mean, you can go so many ways, and there's plenty of strategies you can go. Do you want to go heavier on the guy starting closer to the front? Or do you want to go back heavy like a super speedway? Lots of good strategies today. And there's also a lot of good tournament plays starting in the middle of the pack as well. So it's kind of one of my favorite slates that I can remember in quite some time. Lots of good ways to go. Let's see. Headhunter says, hi. What's up, Headhunter? Stuplebox says, how you doing, Chris? I am doing fantastic. I slept until almost 10 today, so I just got up an hour ago, so I feel well rested. I was very tired yesterday. DFS Pope says, what's up, Chris? I'm in the mountains, still Valentine's weekend, looking to cash big this week. Awesome, Pope. Hope you enjoyed the mountains. I don't know where you're at in the mountains, but hopefully it's lovely there. Rob says, did the contest fill? It did not fill, so if you want in the contest, please comment your DK username down below in the preview video, whatever you want to call it. I will send you guys the invites, and I think we still have like 40 spots, so I know some people probably commented since I've started this, so we should be able to fill it, though. I'll tweet it on Twitter if I need to, if things get dire. Miami says, Jones guaranteed to wreck? Probably. I have a lot of Jones, and every time I have a lot of Jones, he wrecks, so we'll see how that goes. At least he's starting all the way back in 37th. Ralph says, hey, Chris, who do you prefer in GPPs, Bowman or Byron? So overall, my projections will say Bowman's the better play, but if you're looking for a lower-owned guy, I do like William Byron just as a nice pivot, because I think Byron has a halfway decent shot of contending for a win in this race. I don't think it's likely, but I think he can contend for a top 5 here. He's been pretty good at the Robles. Last year, it's only a 2-race sample size, but he did have the fastest average green flag speed at road courses, so I'm very high on William Byron. I'm planning on him being one of my most overweight drivers compared to the field today. Big believer in Byron. I think him being priced right beside Alex Bowman should definitely lower his ownership. Dude says right turns are allowed this week. Yes, and usually my drivers love taking right turns even if they're not allowed, so that should help things a little bit. Paper Chaser says bounce week. Yep. Mitchell says thank you for creating the video. Second week trying NASCAR DFS. Yeah, no problem, Mitchell. Hopefully it goes well for you. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Rob says yes, Jones wrecks every time. He sure does, doesn't he? When he doesn't wreck, though, he usually does pretty well. Brian says thoughts on Matt DiBenedetto. I think Matt DiBenedetto is one of the better plays in the entire slate. I wouldn't say I like him over Eric Jones because he's starting 5 spots further up, but I do like Matty D. He should contend for a top 15 at the Rovals in 4 races, average finish of 15.3. So yeah, I think Matt DiBenedetto starting 32nd is one of the better plays in the entire slate. You can play him in cash games, also tournament viable as well. But I do expect him to have quite a bit of ownership too. Jermaine says, any FanDuel projections? I don't do anything for FanDuel. I don't play over on FanDuel, so I don't create projections for him, so I won't be able to help you there. I don't think the strategy changes too much over on FanDuel, but you can correct me if I'm wrong for that. Headhunter Racing says Custer. So I think Custer was actually 4th in average green flag speed last year at the road courses, which I know is only a 2-race sample size, so I hate putting too much emphasis on that, but I don't hit Custer as maybe a very, very low-owned pivot off of guys like Chris Buescher, Ryan Newman, Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones. Because all those guys in the 7K range are going to be pretty popular for the most part. That 7K range is absolutely stacked. I can't imagine many people whatsoever going to play Cole Custer. Last year, an average finish of 15.5 at the road courses. Not saying it's my favorite play by any means, but if you want to throw like 5 to 10% Custer, it might not be the worst thing in the world just to get a little bit different, but definitely not one of my favorite plays. Travis Miller says, I'm excited, man. Race day is always a great day. Sure is. It sure is. Stupid Block says, did DraftKings finally get the pricing right? Should I be concerned about money left on the table? I know normally I wouldn't, but the pricing seems right. I think DraftKings did a very good job in the pricing this week. Like, I was concerned they were going to make Allmendinger in like that 7 to 8K range just because he's not like a full-on cup driver these days, but they did the pricing very well. I mean, they made it hard where if you want to play Elliott and Truex together, I mean, you got to really dig low for guys like Davison and Ty Dillon, Daniel Suarez if you want to make that work. So there's definitely decisions to be made. As for salary on the table, I think looking at my Fantasy Cruncher lineups, I want to say the least amount of salary I used was like 48,000 something. So for the most part, I'm not leaving too much salary on the table. Now, if you want to leave like a couple $100 off here and there, I mean, that's totally fine because if you're going to try to like even out your salary 50,000 every single time, you're going to run out of lineups to build. So you can leave a little bit of salary on the table, but I'm not trying to. Sometimes it just happens. Conscious says, I'm back. So happy to be here. Awesome, Conscious. I'm glad you're here. Brian says, did you watch the Xfinity race? And if so, what were your thoughts on it? So I was doing some Cup Series work when the Xfinity race was on, but I know I was following along in the Discord chat, and apparently it was pretty crazy. I know, didn't Dinger and Austin Cindric get into I think Allmendinger threw a block on Cindric at the very end of stage 1 and then kind of killed Allmendinger's race. I forget exactly what happened to Cindric, but I also heard Ty Gibbs was really good as well. But I didn't like fully watch it, but I was following along in my Discord as I was working on some stuff. I just spilled water all over my pants, so now I'm going to be wet the whole time. So that's nice. Let's see. Devin Berry says, Kylo 7 on DK. Awesome. If you can comment that on my video, I will send you the invite as long as I see it. Nicholas says, are you playing anyone towards the front in cash or going primarily with PD upside? I'm not playing anyone up front in cash games. I know Chase Elliott is very enticing to want to play in cash games, and I would not fault you for it, but with only 70 laps, we have less than 50 DraftKings points, or not 50 DraftKings points, 50 Dominator points available. I think it's actually 49 total. It just doesn't make sense to play these guys starting up front in cash games. I think guys like Ryan Blaney, Adrian Allmendinger, Alex Bowman, MDB, Eric Jones, Ryan Newman, Chris Buescher, those are your cash game guys because they're starting further back. Your lineups are actually going to look like super speedway lineups actually, which is kind of weird because we just had that last week. So it wasn't really the plan, but with the way the lineup order was set because of Daytona last week, it's going to look. There's a lot of good cars in the back. So if your lineups are looking like super speedway lineups, that's totally fine this week. Rob says, Howard the dog, I'll take one. Well, if you comment that on the video, I will be more than happy to send you the invite. Hannah says, what about Daniel Suarez? I do like Daniel Suarez. So down low, I think Ty Dillon's the best play down low. He's starting 38th. I think he finishes anywhere from like around 25th to 30th place. Maybe if we're lucky, he finishes inside the top 25. But starting that far back, he's a really good play. But Daniel Suarez, because we can't play 100% Ty Dillon, and most of your lamps are going to have to use one of these cheap guys. Daniel Suarez is the direct pivot off of that. He did finish 27th last year in that lawnmower car. I feel like his 99 car this year is maybe a little bit better, so he should contend for maybe a top 25. Not saying he's going to get inside the top 25, but maybe a 25th, 30th place finish. And that's just fine for where he's starting at 35th. So I do like Daniel Suarez today, just to find a source of salary relief. Kyle Sexton says, love what you're doing. Thanks for the invite to your contest. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that. Appreciate you watching, and no problem whatsoever. DFS Pope says, we're in Blue Ridge in Georgia. I'll post a pic in Discord. Awesome. Looking forward to it. I'm sure that's really nice. Whoops. Sorry, my chat went all the way down. Gosh, there's a lot of comments today. How many people are in here? Let me know how many people are in here, just so I don't have to check on my phone. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you leave a like on the stream. Helps me out. Anyway, let's see. Swingle, put your DK username. All right, put that in the video. I'll be more than happy to invite you. Amanda says, thank you for your tips last Sunday. It won pretty good. Oh, yeah, I saw that in the comments. I think you won your contest. Took home about $100. So, awesome. Glad to hear that. Hopefully, you can do that again. Let's see. Mitchell says, how much money is your contest entry? I think it's $3. It's either like $2 or $3, and I paid out the top 3. So, it's like $130 for first, maybe 50 or 80 for second, something like that. I had to double check. Andre says Suarez or Ty, last piece for cash. I would go Ty Dillon there. I mean, they're both good plays, but Ty Dillon's starting a little bit further back. And I trust Ty Dillon more than I do Daniel Suarez. Ryan says best value under 6K besides Dillon. I probably already answered that, but when I was talking about Suarez, because I realized I'm pretty far back in the chat, but I would say besides Ty Dillon, it's Daniel Suarez. And maybe if you want to go a little bit lower than that, James Davison starting at 39th. I think he could finish close to 30th place, which is not that bad at only 5,200. And he also said, sorry, under 7K. So under 7K, I would say, yeah, it's still Ty Dillon, really. Because I don't like anyone in that 6K range. I mean, that 6K range is bad. McDowell, Dillon, Chastain, Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse, they're all starting so far up. I mean, if I was going to play one guy, it would be Stenhouse, but the rest of these guys are pretty strong fade candidates today. Another Racing says Byron over Bowman. Personally, I like Bowman over Byron, but I like both guys quite a bit. I think Byron's a better tournament play because he is starting, 14 spots further up than Alex Bowman. But I like both quite a bit today. And if you want to put them in the same lineup, I have no problem with that at all. Kyle Sexton says, last driver to pick and have 7,000 left. Who would you roll with in GPP? You have 7,000 left. Man, that's a tough spot to be in, to be honest. Because you got Custer, McDowell. I don't really like any of those guys. Ty Dillon's the most appealing for me. I feel like he might be my highest projected as well. But if you want a lower-owned guy, Custer, he's got top 15 potential. Ty Dillon, he's the safer route there. You'd be leaving $1,000 on the table, though. Kevin says, any concern with Dinger after crash yesterday? So a lot of people in my Discord were concerned about that. So I feel like if that's the general consensus on that, I feel like his ownership could be lower. But I still think Dinger's fine. He's starting 34th. It's not like he's starting 15th where he's a risky play. For Dinger to not have a good day, I mean, I think he should contend for a top 15 finish here. And he's starting all the way back in 34th. He's a very safe play today. I would say he's not a better play than Ryan Blaney. He's only $200 more than him because I feel like Blaney's got a legit shot of winning this race. Oh, it's also his 200th career Cup start, so I like the narrative there. And he also looked good in the Busch Clash. But Allmendinger, I mean, he should contend for a top 15. I think he was, top 5 in Vegas odds to win this race. Not saying he's going to win the race, but, I mean, he's such an elite place differential play. It's hard not to like him. So no, I'm not really that concerned. Tyler Wilson says AJ or Chase. I would say Allmendinger in cash and Chase in tournaments. But I have very similar ownership in both those guys. Ralph says GPP pairing. Which pairing do you prefer? Chase and Dinger or Blaney and Truex? Ooh, I'm going to go with Blaney and Truex there. I think it's a little bit better, but they're very close. Like, all 4 of those guys, I have, very, very similar ownership on all 4 of those guys because it's really hard to decide which one I'm going to be heavier on. So, I like all of them, but I'm going to go with the Blaney and Truex side there because they could honestly finish both in the top 3. Justin Bradley says, left my DK username on the Daytona Road Course preview video. Thank you, Justin. Once I'm done with this live stream, I will start sending invites. I got to do it manually, so we'll do it. Andre says Eric Jones always cheap. Sure is, and he's starting way back in 37th. I know he crashed last week, but it's Daytona. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. It happens, but yeah, I like Eric Jones a lot. Concha says, could you rank Penske drivers here today at DK prices? I'm playing the 22. So if I had to rank the Penske drivers, I'm not going to... Should I count MDB in there? If I do, I would say Ryan Blaney is my favorite. And then MDB, I know he's not technically Penske, but it's pretty darn close. And then I would say... It's a toss-up between Joey Logano and Keselowski. Keselowski starting 4 spots further back, so I guess I'll give him the slight edge. But Logano, he's finishing he's had some decent finishes at the Roval, so, but they're just kind of starting in that weird spot where I don't love him. Jeff says 55% Eric Jones and 20 max too much. I don't think so. I think he's going to be close to 50% owned today. So if you want to, if you like him a lot, you want to be overweight on him, I think 55% is fine. Wyatt says, what are you doing with Denny Hamlin this week? I can see him winning this. I have very minimal ownership on Denny Hamlin. He's not a full fade by any means. I think I have him anywhere from 10 to 15% owned for me, which I think is fine because he's got an outside shot of, dominating the race early. He does start close to the front, and I feel like, early on in the race, it's going to be Chase Elliott in first place and then Denny Hamlin in second place pretty soon. So he's a fine play. He should contend for a win here. He's got some of the best odds in Vegas to win. He's good at road courses. I like Hamlin. It's hard to click his name over guys like Byron, who's cheaper, starting all the way back in 36. Who could probably finish in a somewhat close spot to Denny Hamlin. Let's see. Dave says, won't Chase have to have a Watkins-Glen performance in order to pay off? No, he's going to have to dominate a good portion of this race and win, but would that surprise anybody? The guy's been so good at Roval, so I have a decent chunk of Chase Elliott. If he leads over half the race and wins, very strong chance to make the optimal. Now, he's going to have to be paired with place differential guys, but I wouldn't be fading Chase Elliott because he could very easily do that. Mitchell says, how much is your contest entry today? I think someone else asked that, but it is $3, I think. Don says, I'm new to this. Is there a tutorial for starters and beginners? There is, Don. I posted it last year when COVID hit, and it was the only sport, so I posted a video. If you just search my name and then type how to play NASCAR DFS, I think it'll come up. I'm not sure if that's outdated these days, but you can check it out. Travis Miller says, Cindric almost won with half a front end. Yeah, the guy, I think he'd definitely be good. He did very well for us last week at Daytona. That was really nice. He was running really strong, too. He wasn't hanging in the back. The guy was up front. I know he got caught up in that wreck at the end with, half his teammates, but let's see. Conscious says, hit that like button. Totally agree. Helps me out quite a bit. Whoops. Let's see. John says, doing family stuff this morning, brother, but wanted to say thanks for the profit last week. Have a great day with your lady. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. John had a big week last week. I think he won about $2,000. So shout out to John. Thanks for stopping by. Let's see. Appreciate that. Conscious. Mike says Briscoe maybe. I know Briscoe was a good road course racer. It's just they priced him like that. $8,500, well, $8,400 right beside Kurt Busch. It's hard to play Chase Briscoe. I have a little bit of Chase Briscoe, but I'd rather play Kyle Larson, MDB, Kurt Busch, and William Byron. So he's going to be very, very low because that's a really good range. That $8,000 range is filled with good tournament plays and then also a nice cash game play with MDB. So if you want to play Briscoe at probably close to 5% ownership, maybe even lower than that, I wouldn't hate it. He could contend for a top 10. I just don't think it's likely. Michael says Stenhouse or Ty Dillon. I like Ty Dillon. I know Stenhouse is 6,100. I think Ty Dillon's 5,600. It's just the floor with Ty Dillon's much safer. Mr. Mike's daddy says nobody's asking it. What about Kyle Busch? I like Kyle Busch. That's the first question we got about him. I think he's a fine tournament play because the guys in that 10K range, they're going to be so high owned. Allmendinger, Blaney, Elliott, Truex. Also imagine Denny Hamlin's going to have some ownership. And Alex Bowman down there a little bit below at $9,000. I don't think a lot of people are going to be playing Kyle Busch. If they're looking at the stat sheet here, you're going to see an average finish of 34th at Rovals and negative 12 Draftkings points per race. The guy's been getting really unlucky, and we know Kyle Busch is a good road course racer, so I'm not that concerned. The guy's just had awful luck. I think he's due for a good race, and I'm not counting the Busch Clash, but if you guys watch the Busch Clash, he did win that race. Chase Elliott took out Ryan Blaney at the end. Kyle Busch was in the right place at the right time, won the race, but he looked good in that race, so I think he could definitely contend for a top 5. It should be somewhat lower ownership. Although Kyle Busch doesn't usually go too low owned because he's very popular. Maybe not with the fans, but he's a very well-known name. He always tends to have ownership, but I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy today. Mitchell says, do you think Daniel Suarez will be around 20% owned? I think he could come anywhere from 20 to 30% owned, to be honest, because those value plays today are just not the greatest, and I think everyone's going to flock to Suarez and Ty Dillon for the most part. John says, who scores more points, Elliott's or MTJ? I think I have MTJ slightly above Chase Elliott, because Chase Elliott should pick up the majority of the lap sled and fast laps, but Truex should definitely be there at the end. He's got that place differential upside, but I think Truex does score more points today, but I think it will be close. Thank you guys for letting me know any people are in here. Appreciate that. Mr. Miyagi says, thoughts on Alfredo? That's the first Alfredo question. Like, I don't really love Alfredo today. I mean, he's just one of those guys that you can play that's cheap. Like, you have Suarez, Ty Dillon, Anthony Alfredo. They're all starting in the 30s. They should be able to pick up a couple of spots. Although Alfredo, I mean, I don't love him, but he should contend for a top 30. But he's not really an exciting play for me. Jim says, just joined Patreon last week. Great info and content. Didn't do well last week, but I have a good feeling about this week. Thanks for the hard work and effort. Thank you, Jim. Really appreciate that. Thank you for joining over on there. Contrast to those that don't know, Chris led me to winning back my money at the very least nearly every race last season. Pay attention. Awesome, Conscious. Really glad to hear that. G Hill says, fairly new. When you say cash games, are those 50-50s? Yeah, 50-50s, double ups, things like that. Andre says, how are you approaching today's slate? I'm kind of approaching it as a super speedway, to be honest. Besides Chase Elliott, maybe Denny Hamlin, but besides that, I'm picking guys starting further in the back because there's only 70 laps, not a lot of dominator points available, so a lot of good cars in the back as well. So your lineups are probably gonna look like super speedways, to be honest. And I'm not saying to use guys your entire lineup like a Ty Dillon, Daniel Suarez, Davison, Timmy Hill. That's not what your lineup should look like, but definitely targeting guys starting in the back. Tyler Wilson says Bowman or Busch single entry GPP. Is that Kurt Busch or is that Kyle Busch? I feel like Kurt Busch is more so in that price range, but Kurt Busch is going to be lower owned. I do like Kurt Busch a lot in tournaments, but if it's between those two, I'm going to pick Bowman. Just starting 36, it's really hard to pass him up. Let's see. Michael says, not a bad move to pick up any of the Hendrick drivers today. I like all the Hendrick drivers a lot. I like Chase Elliott. I like William Byron, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson. I think he's going to be that sneaky guy that has upside here. I know he only has 2 Roval races, and then neither of those ones are at the Daytona road course, but he was good in those races. One of the best driver ratings, one of the best average running positions. I mean, a lot of lap slide and fast laps. He's in a Hendrick car now. They tend to run pretty well at the Rovals. I think Kyle Larson's got some sneaky GPP upside today. Not saying to go like 20-30% on the guy, but I might be a little bit overweight in the field. Looking at ownership projections, it looked like he might come in close to 5%. I definitely like being overweight on that. Glenn says Dinger was good and was running good until trying to win the stage. Yeah, that's what I saw the clip on NASCAR when they put it on Twitter. I'm sure was he popular in the Xfinity race on DraftKings? I didn't play it obviously, so I don't know, but I'm sure that sucked for a lot of you guys. Sincere says any drivers that's interesting that might get overlooked. Well, I just was talking about Kyle Larson, so I'm going to apply the Kyle Larson segment I just said to that question. So hopefully that answers your question. Garrett says, no little comments next to the drivers and your GPP exposures. I like the explanations. Well, I don't think they're final yet. If I have time, I will do that. Because I know I did that last year, but I was kind of running out of time because it took me like an hour to do it. I was running out of time for lock, and I have the live before lock show. So I might be able to do that, but I will have like a more broad notes at the very least because I'm going to update those before I go live on the Awesemo channel. But I'm glad you like them. Step Blue Box says, I have Byron and Kurt Busch with similar ownership. Should I be heavier on either? I'm a little bit heavier on Byron than I am Kurt Busch, but they are similar for me. It looks like, according to ownership projections, that they're going to be decently low owned. I like being overweight on those guys by quite a bit because they do have upside. Wes Phillips has thoughts on Briscoe. I'm so far behind the chat, I probably answered that already for you, but I think he's like a very low-owned pivot off of guys like Larson, Kurt Busch, Byron. It's just I like those other guys a lot more. And he's in that price range where those guys are going to be very high-owned besides Kyle Larson. So if you want a nice, like very low-owned pivot that has top 15, top 10 potential, I don't mind Briscoe. He's in good equipment. You know, Clint Boyer was a good road course driver in that equipment. Chase Briscoe was good in the Xfinity Series at road courses. So, I mean, it's okay. It's just, you know, he's in a tough spot for me to like him a lot. Where are we at? FE says hit the like button. I agree with FE. You should hit the like button. Thoughts on Eric Jones? I like Eric Jones. I hate to say it, but he's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate, if not my favorite. I mean, he's starting so far back. He should contend for a top 15. I like him. He's a good road course driver. Ralph says, thinking of fading Blaney because you aren't wearing your Blaney shirt. Well, I wore it last week, and he was one of the first guys that wrecked. He got destroyed in that grass, so maybe it's a good thing I'm not wearing the Blaney shirt. JR Brand says projections on Truex. I mean, he should contend for. I would be surprised if he finishes outside the top 3 today. So he should have a very good day on DraftKings. Daniel says, are you concerned at all about Allmendinger's equipment or how he performed in yesterday's race? So from what I saw, Allmendinger was running well in the Xfinity race, and I'm not that concerned about the equipment. I know it's not the greatest in the world. It's definitely not up to par with guys like Elliott, Truex, Blaney, Kyle Busch. I know that. But the equipment shouldn't matter as much at a road course than it would like an intermediate track. And Allmendinger is one of the better road course drivers, so I think he'll be fine. And from where he's starting, it makes him just such a safe play. So I don't think he's going to get a top 5 today, but if he gets a top 10 or even a top 15, he's going to have a very good day on DraftKings, especially if anything else happens to Truex or Chase Elliott or Kyle Busch or even Ryan Blaney. His starting spot makes him a really safe play, so I'm not overly concerned about it. Tyler says Jones or Byron disregard salary. Ooh, Jones or Byron disregarding salary. I'm still going to go Jones just because if Byron finishes, let's say Byron has an okay race and he finishes like 12th to 15th. That's not a great day at nearly $9,000 starting 22nd. If Jones gets a top 20 starting nearly 40th, I'm going to go with Eric Jones there. Michael says Matty D or Eric Jones. I like Eric Jones a little bit more than Matty D, but it is close. It's just starting 5 spots further back. I will take Jones. Jason says, does it make any sense to set up groups based on the previous optimal lineup starting position for today's race? It would not for me because we only have one race at the Daytona road course, so that's just not enough sample size for me to really go heavily on that. And also, if you're going to use the past 4 Roval races for their average starting spots, we've never had a Roval race where the lineup is determined by how the Daytona 500 went, so it's going to kind of throw that out of whack. Because I'm pretty sure you're on Patreon. It says there's like 3 drivers inside the top 12 that are usually in an optimal lineup, but that shouldn't be the case today, so I would not set up the groups like that. Michael says, I saw your tutorial. It's still out there. Awesome, Michael. Hopefully he can find that if he needs to. Steven says up to 188. Awesome. Appreciate everyone in here that's watching. Travis says, who would be your cheap guy plays? I like Ty Dillon, Daniel Suarez down low. I also like James Davison if you really need a punt. But I would not really be that comfortable going below James Davison. Maybe Timmy Hill because he can't lose you any spots. But that's really the nicest thing I can say about Timmy Hill there. I guess those are the cheap guys. Jesse says Kyle Busch or Hamlin. I'll go with Kyle Busch there just because he's starting a little bit further back and he's only $200 more. I know the history at Rovals haven't been great, but I think he'll be fine. Jeff says Truex, Chase, Byron, Jones, Dillon, Suarez. That's your lineup. I think that's a pretty strong lineup. I mean, I love Truex, love Chase, love Byron, love Jones, like Dillon, Suarez down low. So yeah, I think that's totally fine, Jeff. I think you did a good job. Marky Mark says DraftKings info is very appreciated. Just sorry FanDuel isn't included. Sorry, Mark. I just don't like FanDuel, so I'm not gonna. I don't play over there, so I don't want to give advice for it since I don't play on it. Chris says, any room left in DraftKings? Yeah. Leave your DK username in the preview video, and I'll send you the invite. I'm not sure how many people have just commented that, because I think I've said it a couple of times earlier on, so I'm sure there's several comments, but we should be fine for room. So definitely leave your username below, and I'll send you the invite. Whoops. Let's see, where are we at? Bourne says thoughts on Almirola and Bowman. I like both quite a bit. Now, Bowman's one of my favorite plays in the entire slate. Almirola, he's not the best road course racer in the world, but he should be a top 15 contender here, starting in 26. The price is nice. I like both guys quite a bit. Very safe plays. Why says, just thought about this. I forgot Kyle Larson is in a Hendrick car now, and Hendrick has been running so good at road courses. Also, Larson is pretty nasty. Starts high, though. Yeah, the only problem with him is he does start high, but the price is nice, and he could be that sneaky top 5 guy if he picks up some fast laps, and if somehow pit strategy works out and he gets up front, leads some laps. I mean, you'll be looking really good in tournaments. Chris says top 2 cash plays, probably Jones and Alex Bowman for me. Let's see. Dude says similar projections for Newman and Buescher. I'd have to double check exactly what I have my projections are, but I do have Buescher over Ryan Newman. And Newman's just such a boring play every single week. But Buescher, I mean, he's just been very solid at the road courses. He's finished inside the top 20 in all 10 of the past 10 road course races. So I'd have to imagine he's going to finish anywhere from like 15 to 20th today, which is going to be very good at his price tag and starting spot. Boldy says McDowell okay. He ran well here last year. I mean, McDowell's a good road course racer in general. I typically like him at road courses, but he's starting second. He's going to lose spots today. There's no way he finishes second unless he somehow has the race of his life. Or I guess the race of his life was last week, but, you know, one of the races of his life. And he's going to have to hold off. Like, just tell this to yourself, and it doesn't make sense. Do you think Michael McDowell is going to hold off Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Truex, Blaney? I can't see that happening when I say it out loud, so I can't really recommend Michael McDowell today. If he hangs in the top 10, I mean, it might not be the worst thing in the world, but he's pretty much a lock for losing place differential points. Dave says if McDowell makes the optimal, you will smash. You certainly will. I think it's very, very unlikely he makes the optimal. Eric says I can only get my fantasy cruncher to make 3 lineups. How do I fix? Well, that's a deep question there. I'm not sure what your exposures are. I'm not sure what your settings are. You have to fill me in a little bit more on there. How many lineups were you trying to make? So if you can let me know that, I'd be happy to try and help. But that's a more of a deep question there. Steven says Haley, or you said Davison. I think you mean Davison. I would go with Davison. I mean, he started 39th. Haley is starting, what, 20th, I want to say? Yeah, Justin Haley's starting 20th. No, he didn't have a bad track record last year in the Xfinity Series, but hard to trust him starting at 20th. I'll take Davison there at 39th. Tyler says, do you believe Chase Elliott makes the optimal? It's going to be tough because we have Blaney, Dinger, Truex. I think there's like a 30 to 40% chance Elliott can make the optimal today. I don't think it's a lock, but I don't think it's not a lock either. Well, I don't think it's like a hard thing for him to do because there's a very decent chance he's going to pick up the most dominator points and a very good chance he wins this race. And if he does that, strong chance he can make the optimal unless all those place differential guys happen to go bananas. Let's see. Like the emojis, Jay. X Jensen says whenever we're high on Jones, he wrecks. You're darn right. Every single time. Although last year, I think it was Pocono, Jones was starting near the back. Or no, he's starting in the middle. He was my highest owned driver. He ended up wrecking. He was running really good. And then the very next day, because it was a double header, he started, I think, 38th. And then I went like 90% on Jones, and he ended up crushing, making the optimal lineup. So it can work out. Chris says Blaney or Truex in cash. I'll go with Blaney there. He's a little bit cheaper, so it might be the difference of getting up to Ty Dillon over a guy like Davison. Also starting further back. Rob says, can we go no dominators and GPPs? Yeah, I think you can totally go that today. I mean, there's only, what, 49 dominator points available, give or take a few. So, Finesse says Blaney plus Davison or MDB plus Newman. I want to say the first one. I mean, I don't love having to go Davison over like a more balanced approach of MDB and Newman, but the upside with Blaney is very, very high. And I also think Davison could pick up like 9 spots. So I guess I'll go with the first one because I really like Blaney today, but this close. David says Bubba Wallace, Truex, Justin Haley, Elliott, Cole Custer, Alex Bowman for the win. My team right here. That's going to be a very contrarian team. So if these guys happen to have a good race, you'll be looking pretty good in tournaments. You got some really low-owned guys in there. Travis says, thoughts on Austin Dillon? I don't like Austin Dillon at all today. The guy just sucks at road courses. I mean, looking at the 3 oval races he's had, he's average finish at 27th, running position of 23.2, and it's pretty bad numbers all around if you even expand that to the past 10 road course races. So I don't like Austin Dillon today. Bryson says, can't wait for a 50% Jones to have a DNF. I hope not. I hope not. Jason says, got it. Thanks, Chris. I forgot what I helped you with, Jason, but I'm glad I helped. I forget, though. Eric says, Jones to the rear. Yeah, he's pretty much not moving, though, because he's already in the rear. Whoops. Sorry, chat went down. Wyatt says, I really like Busher. I read somewhere that Dinger taught him a lot about road racing. Yeah, I like Busher quite a bit, too. He's one of my favorite cash game plays. I mean, he's cheap, starting 30th. And average finish 15th at the Rovals. I think he's a very strong play today. Mike says, biggest mug I've ever seen. It's a big mug, isn't it? It's my Daytona mug, so might have to retire it after this week. I don't know. It's just kind of like my racing mug for race days. Well, it's a lot of water. Finesse says, opinion on a lineup of only guys starting outside top 25. Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm sure I'll have a lot of lineups like that. Michael says, Blaney or Dinger. I like Blaney slightly. You can make a case for both. It's very, very close, but I feel like I can trust Blaney to get a top 3 more than I could Dinger, so I'll go with Blaney there. I also think he's going to be a little bit higher owned, too. FE says, any left for Brad or Joey? Only in tournaments, and I'm not going to have a lot. I think anywhere from like 8 to 15% exposure on Brad and Joey is a good range to be in, because they're sneaky guys, you know. They're going to go overlooked today, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they're like in the top 3 at some point. Michael says, what do you project for Davison's ownership? I like Davison. Looking around some other people, I haven't really seen anyone else talk up Davison at all. I feel like it could come anywhere from like 5 to 10% owned. And people aren't going to want to click on Davison's name. Now, if it's higher than that, I might be a little bit surprised, but those guys don't typically get much ownership. Let's see. Dude says 37 spot sloping on Chris is turning on Draftkings, and I'm sure a lot of people commented their username on my video, so make sure if you want in, comment your username, and I will send you guys the invites after this live stream is over. King Paid says, Allmendinger or Bowman, who do you like better? I like Bowman overall, but better than Allmendinger. The price is better as well. I think he's a better point per dollar play. Brian says top 3 drivers least likely to DNF in your opinion. Oh, I have no. I wish I knew what drivers would not crash. I mean, anyone could crash. Chase Elliott could crash. I have no idea. I mean, least likely. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I wish I could. Chris says cash game: Truex, Bowman, Jones, Suarez, and Ty Dillon. Last guy, Blaney or Allmendinger. Ooh, I would go with Blaney there. I mean, they're very close. I've been back and forth on Blaney and Allmendinger as well. I like both a lot. I mean, I have very similar ownership in both those guys. It's just I feel like I can trust a little bit. I feel like I can trust Blaney a little bit more. Dude says, can you talk about how much you take projected ownership into consideration with your crunches? I do a lot. I mean, it's one of the main things I look at because I got to figure out if I want to go underweight or overweight on these drivers. Like, if I like Eric Jones a lot and he's going to be 50% owned, I don't want to be underweight at 40%. I want to be overweight on that. So I definitely take that into consideration a lot. Where are we at? Jason's very upset about no McLeod. I know. I'm sorry, Jason. Timothy says, what do you think about Harvick at this course? I don't really like Harvick at all. I said in my video, every time the camera cuts really quick, it's because Kevin Harvick's in the grass or something. I mean, the guy's a good road course racer, but at the Daytona road course, I don't know what it is, but he tends to not have the best time in the world. I mean, I have just a very little splash of Kevin Harvick exposure, but I don't love it today. Travis says, thoughts on Logano? Did I miss it? I feel like I probably answered at that point because I know I'm delayed on the chat, but I don't mind Logano. I think there's a very strong chance he finishes inside the top 10, but is that going to make him a better play than guys like Bowman, MDB, Dinger, Blaney? I don't really think so. He's a fine play. I mean, he's kind of like in the middle. A little bit of exposure, but not fade. Yes, there's plenty of openings in the contest still. Elite. Just make sure you put your username in the preview video because I'm not going to be able to go back on the live stream video and send you guys the invite. So just please do that. I'll be more than happy to invite you. Tyler says Hamlin or Bowman, single GPP. I'll go with Bowman. I know Hamlin's going to be much lower owned, but Bowman's just a very, very good play today. Over 200 people watching now. Awesome. Appreciate everyone stopping by. You're welcome, Trent. Just make sure you comment that on the video. DJ says thoughts on Bubba Wallace. I don't think I have any Bubba Wallace today. I know the car is better than it was last year, but I'm not really a big fan of Bubba today, starting in 10th. The price is low. He could hang around for a top 10, but he doesn't have the best history at the Rovals. Let's see. Ty Dillon or Justin Haley? I'm going to go with Ty Dillon there. I think he's a much safer play. Lee Phoenix says Hendrick stack today for cash. Well, I would not play Kyle Larson in cash, but I do like Alex Bowman quite a bit. Well, I mean, they're all good plays, but I don't think I'm going to play Chase Elliott in cash. I don't think I'm going to play William Byron in cash either. I would play Bowman, though. So I don't think I would stack him for cash, but in tournaments, yeah. Greg says, thanks for everything, CP. Can't believe you dropped this schmack on Sal's channel. Yeah, I thought I would. I saw someone like that in the comment section. But, who's your chalk fade? Whew, chalk fade. Well, I'm not really fading any of the chalks because these guys are very good plays. I guess if I'm going to be underweight on anybody, well, I don't know. I was going to say Chase Elliott, but I'm kind of even on the field with Chase Elliott just because he's not a place differential guy, and if anything happens to him, I mean, he's going to sink your lineup unlike guys like Dinger or Blaney or Truex. But I'm not really fading any of these big chalk guys. Just trying to think maybe off the top of my head who I might be a bit lower on. Like, I'm going to be lower on these guys like Hamlin, Keselowski, Logano, Harvick, but I don't think they're going to be that high owned. But I plan on being underweight on those guys. So, maybe that'll answer your question a little bit. Dave says, DJ, don't play Bubba. I don't really like Bubba either, but I don't like talking people off their favorite plays. Jay says, Dinger and Jones or Chase and Busher. I'm going to go with Dinger and Jones there, especially if it's cash games, because that place differential upside is amazing. Amanda says, so if you're doing a winner takes all group, who's the guy that would be the best pick? Like, my favorite play today overall, I would say Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman or Eric Jones. Let's see. Mason says, Truex or Blaney. I like Blaney just a little bit more. And if price isn't an issue, though, I wouldn't mind getting up to Truex. Truex was really good in the Clash. He had the best car. He went through the field twice before wrecking out. So I guess if price is an issue, I'll go with Truex. But Blaney does offer you a little bit more safety starting back in 27th. Tyler says, LO same question at the same time. Oh yeah, I just saw that. Player trick. Just worded different. Pedro says Blaney or Kyle Busch. I'm gonna go with Blaney there. Not biased or anything. Dude says any left for Reddick starting 24th. Yeah, first question we got about Reddick. I do like Reddick because guys like Newman, Busher, Eric Jones, Almirola, those guys are going to carry mostly ownership in this price range. I think Tyler Reddick can go a bit overlooked. I mean, he did not look bad in the Clash. He was hanging up with the big boys for pretty much the majority of the race. A good finish. Where are we at? Low Hard Nuck says, what do you think? Pick a winner, then stack the back? I mean, some of these guys in the back can win the race. Like I don't think Allmendinger's going to win, but Ryan Blaney's ranking 27th. He could win the race. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. Alex Bowman could win the race. I don't think Eric Jones could win the race or Chris Buescher, but some of these guys starting in the back can potentially win. Now, the likely winners, I would say it's going to be like a Truex, an Elliott, a Hamlin, kind of guys like that. So if you want to go with that strategy, I think that's fine. Pater's fading Elliott. It's bold. It's bold, but it could definitely work out today because these place differential guys are going to be fantastic plays. So I don't hate it, but I'm not personally fading Elliott, but I wouldn't mind being underweight. Amanda says also the winner takes all group I'm talking about is our friend group, which is got about 10 to 14 people in it. So tell me how to take all these guys' monies. They hate it when I win. Are they serious players? Because if they're not serious players, they're probably not going to have the best roster construction. So if you just pretty much play a smart lineup with guys in the back for the most part, I think you'll very easily beat those people. I'm not really sure who you're playing with. Timothy says Bowman, Busher, Dillon, Jones, Logano, Truex for tournament. Yeah, I think that's totally fine. I think it's a really strong lineup because you got a pivot there and Logano, so I don't mind that. It's a very chalky lineup besides Logano, so I think that's fine. Big Gritter says who is Dinger? Allmendinger. Just kind of shortened his name a little bit. Baldy says hit the like button. Totally agree. Hit the like button. Conscious says Amanda, I bet Chris would agree. In a 14 team, it would be AJ, Bowman, Jones to start. AJ, you could replace that with Blaney, but it's definitely Bowman, Jones is pretty much where I would start. Finesse God says Newman or Busher. I like Busher just a little bit. Not overall, but I like Busher a little bit better than Newman. Cameron says, man, I am late. You sure are. I think I caught up to the chat, so I'm probably going to get out of here soon so I can update my lineups. DJ says thoughts on Briscoe. I don't hate Briscoe, but I don't really like him either. Just the $8,000 range is full of good tournament plays. I like Byron and Kurt Busch a lot more, and they're not that much more expensive. I also like MDB a lot. He's only $300 cheaper. I also like Kyle Larson more, so he's my least favorite guy in that group, but it's a very strong group. I don't hate Chase Briscoe. I think he could be a sneaky top 12 guy, but I feel like he might be a bit pricey. So I either caught up to the chat or my thing's not updating. Oh, I think it did update. Okay. Amanda says they are very serious. One does it as his job and actually makes enough money not work. Oh gosh, okay. Well, I'd still play. I'd pretty much just play most of the guys in the back. Now, if you really want to take a stand on Chase Elliott that could lead the majority of the race and win, you could go that route and just play a bunch of place differential guys. But for the most part, I would just play most of these guys starting in the back and build in that nice floor. Because if one of those guys takes a chance on a guy starting closer to the front and has an issue, I mean, you'll definitely have an advantage on them. Bryson says, has any inspection news came out? Not that I know of, but I'm also not on Twitter at the moment. So if you guys heard any news, please let me know. And then I'm actually going to check Twitter really quick. You guys can ask me a question. All right, I'm on Bob's Twitter. Let me see. Last tweet he had was an hour ago. It said tech was ongoing. So guess we don't know anything yet. Cameron says, woke up late talking to my parents. Look down, it's 10:40. Yeah, a little bit late there. That's okay. I'm glad you're still here. Let's see. Why says I caught up. Yep, looks like I finally caught up. It's kind of hard to do catch up. There's a lot of comments. DJ says D Benedetto. I like D Benedetto a lot today. He's gonna be one of my higher owned drivers. I think he's in a really good spot. I mean, he's in good equipment. Should contend for a top 15, starting 32nd. Very good play. Pedro says Kyle Larson, the lowest owned, shooting for a top 3. I'm with you, Pedro. I like Kyle Larson today. I think he's a very sneaky play. Ownership projections look like he's going to be one of the lower owned drivers on the slate, so I really like Kyle Larson. I mean, he's going to have a fast car. Hendrick always brings fast cars. He's one of the most talented drivers in the field, so I like Kyle Larson. I know he hasn't ran here in the Cup Series yet, which I guess is a bit of a downside, but he should be fine. Lil Hard Knock says, I'll tell you this, Elliott better keep his car off Blaney this time or you're going to have issues. Yeah, that's true. Kind of forgot about that. Pedro says Chastain. I think Chastain's starting 9th. I know he's in better equipment this year, but it's just, starting 9th, it's tough. I mean, if he hangs around the top 12, top 15, it could work, but it's going to be a very risky play. I'm not sure if I have any Ross Chastain today. If I do, it's probably like maybe 1 or 2%, but I'm having a hard time clicking on Ross Chastain's name today. Juliana, lovely girlfriend's in here. Favorite part of my Sunday are watching and listening to you. Appreciate that very much. Hope you do the best today. Hope you do well today. Gary says top sleeper pick for today. I want to say, as looking at ownership projections, it's William Byron. I know quite a few people do like William Byron as a sleeper play, so I'm not sure exactly how low owned he's going to be, but pretty much my favorite tournament plays there. William Byron, Kurt Busch. I also like Kyle Larson a lot, and also like Tyler Reddick too. And it says, thank you, sir, and everyone else. I must say that you, Chris, and everyone in here are pretty great, very respectful also, which is hard to find nowadays. Totally agree, Amanda. I think we got a good group in here, and appreciate you stopping by all the time. M&G says, hey, Chris, been watching for over a year and love the content. Thank you for all your help. Very welcome. Thank you for watching. Got 2 spots on GPP today. Have Chase, AJ, Bowman, Jones at Suarez, Ty Dillon, or Busher and Timmy Hill. I'm going to have to go Suarez and Ty Dillon just because I don't really want to trust Timmy Hill, especially in a, well, I guess you didn't say single entry, but I'll go with the first option there just because I don't really want to play Timmy Hill. D-Money says Wallace or Stenhouse. I like Stenhouse. That 6K range is pretty bad, but if I was going to play anyone in that range, it would be Stenhouse because I think he's got a little bit of a top 15 upside. Steven says 239. Hit likes, everyone. Doesn't cost you anything. It really doesn't. Pedro says good. Biggest fave for me is Chastain and Elliott, believe it or not. I'm with you on Chastain. Elliott, I understand it. It scares me though, because we all know Chase Elliott road courses, but I get it. There's so many good plays up there. Truex, Blaney, Allmendinger. If he doesn't make the optimal lineup, you're gonna be looking really good. Because I assume he's gonna be around 30 to 40% owned today. So, but yeah, I'm with you on Chastain for sure. Stu says Alfredo. I don't mind Alfredo. I mean, he's not my favorite, but I mean, it's just kind of necessary salary relief for the most part. Bryson says, I'm so torn on Cole Custer. I think Cole Custer could be sneaky. I mean, people really aren't talking about him. He wasn't bad in the road courses last year. He had speed. It's just starting 13th. He's right beside Busher, Newman, Reddick, Jones. Not really right beside those guys, but he's in that same price range. So it's really hard to like him over those guys, but I have a little bit of Custer. Chris says Jones or MDB in cash. I'm going to go Jones. Both are really good plays, though. X Jensen says, I'm fading Jones and taking MDB and single GPP just for the leverage. Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, I love Jones, but you're going to definitely get some leverage there. TBN Bray says, Chase or Kyle. I'm going to go with Chase over Kyle there. Michael says, is there any strategy to top loading and grabbing the 4K guy that loses you the least points? I mean, it's definitely possible. I think it was the championship race last year. I think the optimal lineup was like 4 studs and 2 dumpster diver cars. Now, obviously, there was like close to 400 laps in that, 300-ish laps in that race, so it's different circumstances, but not the worst thing in the world. Let's see, Lil Hard Knock says, one last question, stars and scrubs are well balanced, and there's some cheap options with good place differential. I'm personally have like both strategies in all my lineups today. If I'm building one lineup in cash games, it's going to be more balanced, so I would say instead of using 2 guys in the 10K range, I'm probably only using 1, and it's more than likely going to be a Blaney or an Allmendinger. Then I'm going to drop down to Bowman, and then I'm going to build from there. That's what I think looks the best personally in cash games, but you could definitely try both and go double cheap, but I'm kind of liking that balanced approach a little bit more. My projections do as well. Nice Kevin says, what happened to Allmendinger yesterday? He went for a block at the end of the stage, and then it kind of just killed him. Let's see, DJ says, Almirola for cash. I don't mind it. I mean, he's not my favorite cash play. I'd rather play MDB and Jones right in between him, but if you're playing all 3, I guess that's fine. For GPP, rank the top 10 guys, or rank the guys in the 10K range for GPP. Personally, I like Blaney the most, and then I kind of like Allmendinger second. Now, I wouldn't say Truex, but you got to factor in the price tag of nearly $11,000. So I think Blaney and Allmendinger are my 1-2, and then I would say Truex and Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch, the last guy there. Garrett says, did you talk about leaving money on the table? Also, if you have any last questions, do it now because I'm probably going to get here very soon because I got to update some lineups and get ready for the Awesemo Live Before Lock show. But did I talk about leaving money on the table? I did very early on. I'm not really planning on leaving much money on the table. I think the most I left was maybe like 1800, and that's probably like my worst lineup. I forget exactly what it was. I was just looking at fantasy crunchers, but not really planning on leaving too much money on the table because this is a slate where DraftKings priced the good drivers up, so don't really think it's viable to leave too much money on the table today. Definitely not like last week. Obi says, yo, Chris, happy Sunday. Thank you, Obi. Appreciate it. Glad you're in here. FE says, great content as always. CP16, good luck. Hope we all win money. I agree, FE. Thank you very much. Yep, totally agree, Obi. DJ says, Omarola or Larson for cash. Definitely Omarola. Larson's starting too far up for me in cash games. Manny says, good luck, everyone. Hope you all win big. Totally agree. Hope so. Travis says, Kyle Busch, Logano, Byron, Bowman, Jones, GPP. Yeah, it's a strong GP lineup. I like all those guys. I think that's pretty good. You're welcome, Andre. And I think I'm caught up to the chat, so I think I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to take one more drink of water. If I don't see any more questions, I'll get out of here. And then you guys can follow me over on the Osmo Live Before Lock show with Jason. And we'll have a good time over there. Okay, last question. Andrew says, okay, 2 more questions. Okay, Andrew says, what randomness would you use on Cruncher? Thank you. It's personal preference. I know some people use like 15 to 20. I didn't use any this week. I don't know, maybe that's a mistake on my part, but I've had success with not using randomness before. Actually, all the tournaments I think I've won, I haven't used any randomness, so this is my personal preference. I didn't have any, but you can use maybe up to 20% if you want to. Let's see, Kyle, Kile, not sure how you pronounce it. He gives me the deuce sign. See ya. Amanda says, also, Chris, should I wait to sign up for Patreon until next month or today? That's personal preference because it's going to charge you today and it's going to charge you on the first of the month. I think the way Patreon charges is kind of dumb. I wish it would just do it now and then the next 30 days after or whatever, but it's personal preference to you. You're welcome, Garrett. Any Almirola this week? Yeah, I do like Almirola. I think he's a relatively safe play. I just don't think he's as good of a play as MDB or Eric Jones, where he's kind of sandwiched right in between. Let's see. Wi-Fi says, why are you so high in Dinger? Because he's starting all the way back in 34th. He's going to be fine today. I don't think he's going to finish like 20th. I think he should contend for a top 15 today. He's starting that far in the back. I think he's a pretty solid play. Gizmo says, not water in the Stein again. Let's see. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, I'm going to get out of here, guys. I appreciate everyone stopping by, and I'll see you guys over on the Osmo Live Before Lock show at 2 p.m. Eastern.